Commander Zhathik walked into the great council chamber with heavy steps. His body showed the marks of many battles. Scars covered his shell-like skin, and his 6 eyes had seen more death than most beings could imagine. He had fought in wars across 40 different planets during his long military career. But none of those battles scared him as much as what he needed to tell the council today. The chamber was huge and filled with representatives from hundreds of alien species. They all served the Galactic Empire, the most powerful force in known space. At the center sat High Chancellor Vordan, a tall, blue-skinned Velcross who ruled over trillions of beings across thousands of star systems. Zhathik stopped in the middle of the chamber and began to speak. His words came out as clicks and whistles, but a small device around his neck changed them into the common galactic language that everyone could understand. "Honored members of the Council," he said, "I come here today with an important warning. The humans of Earth must not be attacked. We must not go to war with them." Several council members laughed. Some whispered to each other. High Chancellor Vordan raised one of his 3-fingered hands to quiet the room. "Commander Zhathik, we all know about your long service to the Empire," Vordan said. "But Earth is just a small world on the edge of known space. They have no real military power. Their technology is hundreds of years behind ours. They don't even have a proper space fleet. Why should we fear them?" Zhathik felt frustration build inside him. They were not listening. They did not understand. "It is not their technology that makes them dangerous," he explained. "It is what they are. It is how they think. I fought against humans once, 15 cycles ago on their colony world called New Terra. We thought it would be easy. It was not." Admiral Kreshtok stood up from his seat. He was the supreme commander of all Imperial military forces. His species looked like walking reptiles, with thick scales and sharp teeth. "One small battle on a colony world means nothing," the Admiral said. "My fleet has 2,000 warships. Earth barely has space stations around their own moon. This discussion is a waste of time." Zhathik's eyes focused on the Admiral. He needed to make them understand, even if they did not want to hear it. "On New Terra, I led a reconnaissance team of 20 soldiers. We were tracking rebel forces when we found a human soldier. His name was Jake Harrison. He was alone, wounded, and low on ammunition. By all logic, he should have surrendered. Instead, he fought us for 3 full days." The council chamber grew quieter. Some members leaned forward to hear better. "This one human turned the jungle into a killing ground," Zhathik continued. "He struck at us when we were tired and disappeared before we could respond. He killed 7 of my soldiers before we finally captured him. And when we did, he was still trying to fight despite having lost so much blood that any other species would have been dead. One lucky soldier," someone called out from the crowd. More laughter followed. Zhathik ignored the interruption. "I also fought alongside a human medic. Her name was Lisa Martinez. She had taken an oath to heal, not to hurt. But when our position was attacked by raiders, she picked up a rifle and fought beside us. She saved 14 of my soldiers that day, even though she took wounds that should have killed her 3 times over." He pulled up images on the chamber's display system. The pictures showed human soldiers in various battles. Some were wounded but still fighting. Others were surrounded by enemy forces, but refusing to give up. "Look at these images carefully," Zhathik said. "Humans do not understand the concept of a good time to surrender. They do not think about acceptable losses. When backed into a corner, they become more dangerous, not less. They will sacrifice everything, even their own lives, for the smallest chance of victory." High Chancellor Vordan shook his head. "Commander, your experiences have colored your judgment. Yes, humans are tough for their size. Yes, they can be fierce fighters, but they are still just one species on one planet. The Empire spans 1,000 worlds. Our military power is absolute." "Then you are making a terrible mistake," Zhathik said, his voice growing louder. "Earth has refused to join the trade union. They have denied us access to their system. I know the Council wants to force them to comply, but forcing humans to do anything only makes them more determined to resist. Admiral Kreshtok laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. The Council has already made its decision. Earth will be given 3 standard months to open their borders and accept Imperial rule. If they refuse, we will consider it an act of war and respond accordingly. Vordan nodded. The decision is final. Earth will join the Empire, willingly or by force. This meeting is over. The Council members began to leave. Jathik stood alone in the center of the chamber, watching them go. He had delivered his warning. He had told them the truth about what humans were capable of, but they had not listened. They believed their technology and numbers would be enough. Jathik knew better. He had seen what humans could do when pushed. He had watched them fight with a determination that defied all logic. He had learned to respect them, even fear them a little. As he walked out of the chamber, Jathik felt a deep sadness. The Empire was about to make a huge mistake. They were about to go to war with a species that did not know how to quit. And thousands, maybe millions, would die because the Council refused to listen to a simple warning from an old soldier who had actually fought against humans. The war was coming, and it would be terrible. 3 months passed quickly. Earth's answer to the Empire's demand came through official channels. It was simple and direct. The answer was no. Admiral Kreshtok smiled when he received the message. His fleet had been waiting at the edge of Earth's solar system for this moment. 2,000 warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Each ship was large enough to destroy entire cities from orbit. Together, they represented the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The Admiral's flagship was called the Sovereign Destiny. It was 3 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to level a continent. From the bridge, Kreshtok looked at the small blue planet in the distance. It looked peaceful. It looked weak. Open all communication channels, the Admiral ordered. Let me speak to these humans. His voice went out across all frequencies, reaching every radio and television on Earth. Attention, people of Earth. You have rejected the Empire's offer to join us. This was a mistake. You leave us no choice but to use force. Surrender now, and we will spare your planet. Resist, and you will be destroyed. The response came from a place called Colorado, from Earth's Defense Coordination Center. The voice belonged to Colonel Danny Price, a human military officer. Unknown vessels. You are in our space without permission. Turn around and leave now, or we will defend ourselves. The bridge of the Sovereign Destiny filled with laughter. The crew could not believe what they had heard. These primitive humans were threatening them. How entertaining, Admiral Kreshtok said. Tactical officer. Destroy their military bases. Start with North America. Show them what real power looks like. The first wave of Imperial fighters launched from the fleet. Hundreds of small attack craft streaked toward Earth, their weapons charged and ready. The pilots were confident. They had done this many times before on other worlds. This would be easy. The confidence lasted about 7 minutes. Earth's defenses were nothing like what the Empire expected. The humans had no energy shields. They had no plasma weapons. They had no advanced targeting systems. What they had was different, and it worked. Thousands of satellites in orbit around Earth suddenly came to life. They were armed with simple railguns, weapons that fired metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The satellites opened fire all at once, filling space with deadly chunks of metal. The first fighter wing flew right into this storm of projectiles. Ships exploded. Hulls were torn apart. Pilots died without understanding what had hit them. 60% of the wing was destroyed in the first minute. The survivors pushed forward, determined to complete their mission. They entered Earth's atmosphere and found more surprises waiting. The sky was full of human aircraft. These planes were old-fashioned, using chemical fuel and mechanical parts. But they flew in ways that made no sense to the Imperial pilots. Major Kevin Drake flew his F-47 fighter straight at an Imperial bomber. His missiles were gone. His guns were empty. So he did the only thing left. He rammed his jet directly into the enemy ship. Both craft exploded. Kevin ejected just in time, his parachute opening as he fell toward the ocean below. As he drifted down, he watched the Imperial bomber spiral into the Atlantic. His radio crackled with a message from command. "Drake, nice kill. Get back here fast. We need every pilot we can get." Kevin smiled. "On my way." This same scene played out across the planet. Human pilots were using tactics that should not work. They flew too close to the ground. They made turns that should have torn their planes apart. When they ran out of ammunition, they used their aircraft as weapons. On the ground, the fighting was even worse for the Imperial forces. They had landed troops in several major cities, expecting quick victories. Instead, they found themselves in brutal street battles. In Seattle, Imperial soldiers in powered armor found themselves fighting a mix of human soldiers and armed civilians. The Imperial troops had better weapons and better protection. But the humans knew the city. They knew every street, every building, every hiding place. Leading one group of defenders was a woman named Amy Peterson. She was not a soldier. She was a history teacher. But when the invasion began, she had picked up her hunting rifle and joined the fight. Amy organized the people around her with hand signals. She led charges across open streets while enemy fire filled the air. She made bombs from household items and used them to destroy an Imperial walking tank. When the alien crew climbed out of their damaged vehicle, she took them prisoner instead of killing them. Then she went right back to fighting. On the Sovereign Destiny, Admiral Kreshtok stared at the reports coming in from the surface. The numbers made no sense. His forces were not winning. They were barely holding their positions. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We have superior technology, superior firepower, superior everything." His tactical officer, a young Velcros named Shenra, pulled up video footage from the surface. "Admiral, I think you need to see this." The video showed the fighting in Seattle. It showed Amy Peterson leading her group against Imperial soldiers. It showed her bravery, her skill, her complete refusal to give up, even when the situation looked hopeless. "She is not even a trained soldier," Shenra said quietly. "She is a teacher. But she fights like a warrior born to battle." And, Admiral, they are all like this. Every human we encounter, soldier or civilian, trained or not, they all fight with the same determination. Kreshtok watched the video in silence. He was beginning to understand what Commander Jathik had tried to warn the Council about. This was not going to be an easy conquest. Around the planet, similar battles raged. In Detroit, Imperial forces took the city but paid a terrible price. Thousands of soldiers died taking just one urban area. In Lagos, human defenders used knowledge of the local terrain to ambush Imperial patrols again and again. In Mumbai, a single company of human soldiers held a hospital against an entire battalion of Imperial troops. The humans did not fight fair. They used ambushes and traps. They struck at night, when the Imperial troops were tired. They used the weather and the terrain to their advantage. They turned every building into a fortress and every street into a killing zone. By the end of the first day, the invasion had stalled. The Empire controlled small patches of territory but at enormous cost. 70,000 Imperial soldiers were dead or wounded. Hundreds of ships had been damaged. And Earth's resistance showed no signs of weakening. In fact, it was getting stronger. More humans were joining the fight every hour. Factories were being converted to make weapons. Cities were organizing their own defense forces. The entire planet was mobilizing for war. Admiral Kreshtok sat in his command chair, staring at the casualty reports. This was supposed to be simple. This was supposed to be easy. Earth was primitive. Earth was weak, but Earth was winning. 2 weeks had passed since the invasion began. The Empire now controlled exactly 3 cities on Earth: Detroit, Lagos, and Mumbai. Taking these 3 cities had cost them 70,000 dead soldiers, hundreds of damaged ships, and enormous amounts of resources. Worse, the humans showed no signs of surrendering. Captain Rick Chen stood in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Detroit. Around him were 200 Marines, dirty and tired, but ready to fight. Rick had a plan to take back the city, even though his force was outnumbered 15-1. "Listen up," Rick said to his troops. "The aliens are stronger than us. They have better weapons and better armor, but they are not from here. They don't know this city like we do. We know every tunnel, every sewer line, every hidden passage. We are going to use that." The Marines nodded. They understood. This was not going to be a fair fight. And that was exactly how they wanted it. "We hit them at dawn," Rick continued. "Multiple attack points at the same time. Confuse them. Keep moving. Never stay in one place long. Use everything we have, including captured alien weapons. Make them afraid of every shadow." The attack began as the sun rose. Rick's Marines emerged from tunnels all over the city simultaneously. The Imperial soldiers never saw them coming. One moment, the streets were quiet. The next moment, they were under attack from all directions. The Marines used tactics the aliens had never seen before. They set traps in buildings. They played disturbing sounds through captured communication devices. They left false trails that led Imperial patrols into ambushes. They made the enemy soldiers scared to turn any corner or enter any structure. Lieutenant Nicole Stevens led a squad that specialized in destroying Imperial armor. Her team carried anti-tank missiles and grenades. When those ran out, they switched to homemade explosives. When those ran out, they started using stolen alien weapons. "Command, this is Stevens." Nicole spoke into her radio. "We have destroyed 6 walking tanks and captured 12 enemy soldiers. We need pickup." "Negative, Stevens. Hold your position for 2 more hours. We need you there." Nicole looked at her squad. They were exhausted. They were running low on ammunition, but they were still ready to fight. "Copy that. We will hold." And they did. When Imperial reinforcements arrived 2 hours later, they found Nicole and her squad still in position. They had held against impossible odds, using nothing but determination, and captured weapons. Across the planet, similar stories played out. In Lagos, a civilian engineer named Tony Okafor managed to hack into the Imperial communication network. He spent 3 days writing a computer virus, then released it into their systems. The virus crashed their tactical displays and scrambled their radio frequencies. Imperial units lost contact with each other and started firing at their own forces by mistake. In Mumbai, Sergeant Samantha Gupta defended a hospital for 11 straight days. The hospital held 2,000 wounded soldiers and civilians. The Imperial forces tried again and again to take it, but Samantha and her small force held them off every time. She organized the walking wounded into fighting units. She taught civilians how to handle weapons. She turned the hospital into a fortress. The Empire was learning a hard lesson. Humans did not just fight. They adapted. When one tactic stopped working, they tried something new. When they ran out of one type of weapon, they found another. When they lost soldiers, more volunteers stepped up to replace them. Admiral Kreshtok studied the battle reports in his quarters aboard the Sovereign Destiny. The numbers were getting worse every day. His forces were exhausted. Morale was dropping. Soldiers were starting to refuse orders to go into human-controlled areas. He pulled up a file that Command had sent him. It was information about Earth itself, data they should have studied before the invasion began. What he read shocked him. Earth's gravity was stronger than most habitable planets. The humans had evolved to be tough just to survive their own world. Earth's diseases were deadly to many alien species. The Imperial medical teams were overwhelmed treating infections that humans barely noticed. Earth's weather was violent and unpredictable. Storms that the humans called normal destroyed Imperial equipment. But the most important fact was this: humans were the dominant predator species on their planet. They had spent millions of years learning to hunt, to fight, to survive, and they had spent the last 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare against each other. The Empire had not invaded a primitive world. They had invaded a planet full of born warriors who had already mastered combat in every environment imaginable. A message came through from the surface. It was from Captain Velkan, one of the ground commanders in Detroit. "Admiral, we cannot hold this city. The humans have launched a major counterattack. We need immediate reinforcement, or we will lose everything." Kreshtok felt something he had rarely experienced in his long military career. He felt fear. "How many humans are attacking you?" "We estimate 200 Marines, sir." "You have 3,000 troops. How can you not stop 200 humans?" "Because they are everywhere and nowhere, Admiral. They appear, strike, and disappear. They know terrain we cannot navigate. They use weapons and tactics we have never encountered. And, sir, they do not stop. Even when wounded, even when surrounded, they keep fighting." Kreshtok ended the call. He sat in silence for a long moment, then opened a communication to the entire fleet. "All commanders, this is Admiral Kreshtok. I am requesting emergency reinforcements from High Command. We need another 1,000 ships and 500,000 soldiers. The situation on Earth is not sustainable." He sent the message knowing it would make him look weak. But facts were facts. The invasion was failing. If they did not get help soon, they would lose. On Earth, humans continued their resistance. In Tokyo, a pilot named Ben Tucker was flying an unarmed transport when 3 Imperial fighters intercepted him. Instead of surrendering, Ben flew his transport into a narrow canyon. The fighters followed. Ben performed moves that should have torn his aircraft apart, flying between cliff walls with meters to spare. When one fighter got too close, Ben deliberately crashed into it, then ejected and survived. In London, a wounded corporal named Laura Bishop refused to leave the front lines. She had lost both legs in an explosion, but she would not give up. She had her wheelchair modified into a mobile weapons platform, mounting machine guns and rocket launchers on it. She returned to combat within a week and personally destroyed 8 Imperial vehicles. Stories like these spread among both human and alien forces. The humans were inspired by them. The aliens were terrified by them. The Empire had made a critical mistake. They had assumed that technology determined the outcome of wars. They had forgotten that wars are won by the soldiers who fight them, by their courage and determination and refusal to quit. Earth was showing them that lesson in the hardest way possible. 1 month into the war, Commander Zhathik requested an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council. This time, when he entered the chamber, no one laughed. The council members looked tired and worried. Everyone had seen the casualty reports from Earth. High Chancellor Vordan stood to greet him. The tall blue alien looked like he had aged 10 years in just 1 month. "Commander Zhathik, we have called you here because we value your experience. Tell us honestly, can we win this war?" Zhathik pulled up the latest data on the chamber's display. The numbers were hard to look at. 400 ships destroyed or disabled. Over 200,000 Imperial soldiers dead. Billions of credits spent, and the Empire controlled less than 1% of Earth's surface. "The invasion has failed," Zhathik said simply. "Admiral Kreshtok is asking for another 1,000 ships and 500,000 more troops. Even if you send them, I do not believe they will be enough." "How can this be?" Vordan asked. "Every simulation said we would win easily." "Because you simulated their technology, not their spirit," Zhathik answered. "Let me show you something that happened yesterday." He played a video on the display. It showed a human cargo pilot named Ben Tucker flying an unarmed transport. 3 Imperial fighters were chasing him. Instead of landing and surrendering, Ben flew into a canyon so narrow that it seemed impossible. He performed moves that should have destroyed his ship. When one fighter followed him in, Ben crashed into it on purpose, then ejected and lived. This is not rational behavior, Jothik continued. But it is typical human behavior. They do things that make no logical sense, but somehow work. Let me show you another example. Another video appeared. It showed a woman in a modified wheelchair. Her name was Laura Bishop. She had lost her legs in combat, but refused to leave the war. She had turned her wheelchair into a weapons platform and returned to the front lines. She destroyed 8 of our vehicles, Jothik said. A wounded human in a wheelchair did more damage than some of our fully equipped units. Admiral Gentar, who had replaced Kreshtok after the first admiral suffered a breakdown, stood up. He was a veteran commander who had won many battles. Then, what do you suggest we do? Gentar asked. We cannot simply retreat. The Empire does not surrender. Then the Empire will continue to lose soldiers for nothing, Jothik said bluntly. But there is something more important you need to understand. Even if we somehow win this war, we will have created a permanent enemy. He pulled up images of human soldiers, their faces showing exhaustion and pain but also determination. Humans have a saying, we will remember. They remember every defeat, every insult, every loss. And they never forgive. If we continue this war, even if we win, they will spend the next 100 years building better ships, developing better weapons, and planning revenge. One day, they will come for us, and when they do, they will not stop until we are destroyed. The council chamber fell silent. No one wanted to admit it, but they all knew Jothik was right. On Earth, General Marie Anderson stood in the command center studying orbital tracking data. She was the supreme commander of all Earth defense forces. She had not slept properly in 4 weeks. The Imperial fleet is repositioning, her intelligence officer reported. They are pulling back to high orbit. Are they retreating? Someone asked hopefully. Marie shook her head. No. They are getting ready for one final, massive attack. They are going to throw everything they have at us all at once. Colonel Chris Martinez, her second in command, stepped forward. General, Project Valkyrie is ready. All the orbital launchers are loaded and aimed. Project Valkyrie was Earth's desperate final plan. They had taken every available rocket, every missile, every orbital platform, and fitted them with simple kinetic warheads. They were not sophisticated weapons, just chunks of metal designed to hit targets at high speed. But there were 3,000 of them. How confident are you that this will work? Marie asked. Chris shrugged. Honestly, 50-50 at best, but it is our best shot. Marie looked around the command center at her exhausted staff. They had all lost friends and family in this war. Some had been fighting on the front lines themselves, but not one of them looked defeated. Then we take that shot, Marie said. All units, prepare for Operation Sovereign Fall. We are taking the fight to orbit. The plan was simple but dangerous. Earth would launch all 3,000 missiles at once, targeting the Imperial fleet. At the same moment, human forces would attack in every occupied zone on the ground. The Empire would have to choose between defending their ships in orbit or their troops on the surface. 24 hours later, the operation began. 3,000 missiles launched from hidden sites all over Earth. They streaked into space on pillars of fire, heading straight for the Imperial fleet. Admiral Gentar saw them coming on his sensors. What in the name of all stars is that? Missiles, sir. Thousands of them, all types, all sizes. Some are chemical rockets from their museums, some are modern orbital platforms. They are all aimed at us. Defensive fire. Shoot them down. The Imperial fleet opened fire with every weapon they had. Hundreds of missiles were destroyed, but there were too many. They kept coming, wave after wave, of simple but effective projectiles. The missiles began hitting their targets. Imperial ships exploded. Armor was punctured. Systems failed. The fleet tried to scatter, but the missiles followed. They were not smart weapons, but they did not need to be. There were so many of them that accuracy barely mattered. At the same moment, on the ground, human forces launched coordinated attacks. In Detroit, Captain Rick Chen and his Marines stormed the Imperial headquarters. In Lagos, Tony Okafor activated another virus that shut down all Imperial communications. In Mumbai, Sergeant Samantha Gupta led a breakout from the hospital, catching the besieging forces by surprise. The Empire's carefully organized invasion fell apart. Units lost contact with command. Ships were too busy defending themselves to support ground troops. Soldiers on the surface found themselves surrounded by humans who seemed to appear from nowhere. On the Sovereign Destiny, Admiral Gentar watched his fleet being destroyed. 50 ships gone in the first 10 minutes. 100 ships after 20 minutes. The missiles just kept coming. "Admiral, we cannot sustain this. We need to withdraw." Gentar stared at the display showing Earth. The small blue planet had defeated the mighty Galactic Empire. It seemed impossible. But the facts were undeniable. "Open a channel to Earth Command," he said quietly. General Marie Anderson's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired but triumphant. There was a bandage on her forehead from recent fighting. "This is General Anderson. State your intentions." The words came hard, but Gentar forced them out. Marie did not smile. "Here are our terms. You will withdraw all forces from our system immediately. You will leave all captured personnel and equipment. You will pay reparations for the damage you caused. And you will recognize Earth as an independent state, with full territorial rights extending 20 light-years from our sun. Acceptable. One more thing, Admiral. Tell your council this. Earth wants peace. But if anyone ever invades us again, we will not just defend. We will build a fleet. We will find your worlds. And we will make sure you never threaten anyone again. Do you understand?" "Yes, General. I understand perfectly." 3 days after the ceasefire, the last Imperial troops left Earth's solar system. They took their wounded and their damaged ships. They left behind their dead, their captured equipment, and their pride. The mighty Galactic Empire had been defeated by a single planet. Commander Jothic stood before the Galactic Council once again. This time, his audience listened to every word with full attention. "The final count is 450,000 Imperial soldiers dead," he reported. 800 ships destroyed or captured. Complete failure of the invasion. Earth suffered approximately 2 million casualties, mostly civilians, and major damage to infrastructure. But they won. High Chancellor Vordan looked like a broken leader. His confidence was gone. "We learn," Jothic said. "We learn that technology alone does not win wars. We learn that the strength of a species is not measured in ships or weapons, but in determination and courage. And most important, we learn to listen when experienced soldiers give warnings." He paused, then continued. "I spoke with several human soldiers during the ceasefire negotiations. Do you know what they told me? They said they were sorry it came to war. Can you believe that? After everything we did to them, after we invaded their home and killed millions of their people, they apologized that we forced them to defend themselves." The council members looked at each other. They had expected humans to be angry, vengeful. Instead, the humans had shown surprising compassion. "They are capable of great violence, yes," Jothic explained, "but also great compassion. We could have had them as friends and allies. Instead, we are lucky if they agree to be peaceful neighbors." 6 months later, Earth sent its first diplomatic mission to the Galactic Council. The mission was led by Colonel Danny Price, the same officer who had told the Imperial fleet to turn back on the first day of the invasion. As Danny walked through the council station, he noticed how other beings reacted to him. Some moved away quickly. Others stared with a mixture of fear and respect. A few nodded in acknowledgement. Earth had earned something valuable. They had earned the right to be left alone. Danny attended several formal meetings with various alien governments. Everyone was polite. Everyone was careful. No one wanted to anger the humans. In one meeting, a trade representative from the Velcro species asked Danny about Earth's future plans. "Will Earth be building a military fleet?" the representative asked nervously. Danny considered his answer carefully. "Earth will do what is necessary to defend itself and its interests. We hope that means peaceful trade and diplomacy. But we will be prepared for other situations if they arise." The message was clear. Earth would be ready if anyone tried to invade again. After the formal meetings ended, Danny found himself in a quiet bar on the outer section of the station. He ordered a drink and sat down, enjoying a rare moment of peace. A familiar figure approached and sat beside him. It was Commander Jothic, the old warrior who had tried to warn the Empire. "Colonel Price," Jothic said. "May I join you?" "Please do, Commander. And call me Danny." Jothic ordered a drink of his own. For a while, they sat in comfortable silence. Two old soldiers who understood each other despite being from different worlds. "I am sorry for what my people did to yours," Jothic said finally. Danny took a drink before responding. "I am sorry you had to watch them learn the hard way. You tried to warn them. They did not listen." "Will you tell me something honestly, Danny? During the war, were you really as confident as you seemed?" Danny laughed quietly. "Not at all. We were terrified the entire time. We just knew that showing fear would mean losing everything. So we pretended to be brave until we actually became brave." Jothic made a clicking sound that Danny had learned meant amusement. "That is what makes you dangerous. You fight despite fear, not without fear. That is true courage." They continued talking for hours, sharing stories about the war and about their lives before it. They found they had much in common. Both were soldiers who preferred peace but were ready for war. Both had seen too much death. Both hoped the galaxy would learn from what had happened. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. Cities were being rebuilt. Families mourned their dead. Governments organized memorial services for those who had fallen. But Earth was also building. New shipyards were under construction in orbit. Scientists were studying captured Imperial technology. Military academies were teaching lessons learned from the war. Earth had learned its own lesson. The galaxy was dangerous. And peace only lasted when you were strong enough to defend it. General Marie Anderson gave a speech at one of the memorial services. She stood before thousands of people who had lost loved ones in the war. "We did not want this war," she said. "We did not ask for it. But when it came, we did what humans have always done. We stood together. We fought for our home. We protected each other. And we won." She paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. "Now we have a choice. We can be angry and seek revenge. Or we can be better. We can build a future where our children never have to fight a war like this again. Not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough that no one dares to attack us." The crowd was silent, listening to every word. "We will remember those who died. We will honor their sacrifice, and we will make sure that sacrifice was not in vain. We will build a better Earth. We will reach out to the peaceful species in the galaxy. But we will also be ready, always ready, to defend what is ours." In space, the first human warship was being built. It was not as advanced as Imperial ships, but it was solid and practical. More would follow. Earth was going to have a proper fleet. Commander Jothic heard about the shipbuilding program and smiled. The humans were doing exactly what he expected. They were preparing for the future, while hoping for peace. Years passed. Earth established trade relations with several alien species. Human merchants began traveling to other star systems. Human scientists shared some of their knowledge while carefully protecting their military secrets. Earth became known as a world that valued peace but was ready for war. The Galactic Empire never recovered from its defeat. Other species saw that the Empire could be beaten. Several worlds declared independence. The Empire's authority weakened. Also, Within a generation, it would cease to exist as a unified government. But Earth thrived. They had proven themselves on the galactic stage. They had shown that determination and courage could overcome superior technology. They had earned respect through strength and compassion through victory. Danny Price eventually retired from military service. He became an ambassador, helping to build peaceful relationships between Earth and other worlds. But he never forgot the war. None of them did. On Earth, parents told their children about the invasion. Schools taught about how humanity came together to defend their home. The war became part of Earth's history, a reminder of what they could accomplish when they stood united. And in the galaxy, a new saying emerged among the various species: never underestimate the humans. They had learned this lesson the hard way. They would not forget it. Ender 7. Earth's future was uncertain, as all futures are. But one thing was clear. They would face that future on their own terms, ready for whatever challenges came their way. They were no longer an isolated species on a single planet. They were part of the galactic community, and the galaxy would never be quite the same again.